After holding back for many years and experiencing Neil Gaiman's fandom from afar, I have finally— I'm sorry, what? I don't know what, like behind me? Like, where are my books? No! Alright, so my books are safe and sound elsewhere, shame off it. My room's getting a fresh coat of paint, so I've had to relocate my gear for a few days. That being said, this temporary move has put me in the mindset to review Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere and explore its eerie similarities with my current situation. Neverwhere follows Richard Mayhew, a Scotsman who's relocated to London and is now following the straight and narrow line to an acceptable success. He's a young businessman in a decent job. He's engaged to a woman who likes him, though she might not necessarily respect him, and he's probably gonna relocate to the suburbs, as you do. One night his life unravels when he encounters an injured woman named Dor who's on the run from sinister and unspecified forces. Richard helps the young woman as any decent person would. However, Dor is not a part of London proper. Instead, she comes from London below, a place where countless invisible people now reside after slipping through the cracks of society. Richard's contact with Dor has broken his bonds with London above, and he discovers that his presence has been entirely erased from his old life. He loses his apartment, his job, his fiancée, and nearly his sanity in the aftermath. And the only woman he can hold on to is busy fighting her own battle with an unseen enemy who murdered her entire family. What follows is an urban odyssey through London's underground world, and the painful, disorienting experience of one man discovering who he is under all those layers of social convention. While I and my books have been displaced for a few days, Richard begins his trek through London below with nothing. Richard's identity is shattered once his possessions and social markers are gone, and he's forced to figure out his real nature while entering a dangerous new world that he doesn't understand. I have to admit, there are many times reading this novel where I just wanted to jump into the book and pull Richard back to his old life. Just knowing how lost he was and how desperate he was to get back to a familiar, predictable place, I just wanted to jump in and save him from his own discomfort. And he attaches himself to Dor, not necessarily because they're friends, but because she's someone he at least knows. She's the only familiar person here, and he clings to her with all his strength. I think we'd all be overwhelmed to lose everything and everyone we know, and Gaiman does an excellent job at making you feel Richard's panic. Now, I received this book from my friend Ms. Gavea this year for Christmas, and she gave it to me in part because she knew it would make me want to go to London. Lady, you know me too well. I guess 15 years of friendship will do that to a gal. When Richard enters London below, he meets a cast of intriguing characters, and many of them are actually personifications of London subway stations. I know Ms. Gavea loves the eccentric, pigeon-friendly Old Bailey, and I quite like him too. And I also like the imposing, ambiguously gendered Angel Islington. I also mentioned in a previous video that I have a tendency to love villains, and the trend continues. I adored Croup and Vandemar far more than a healthy reader should. They're the perfect image of the grinning, quick-witted, sadistic murderers for hire, and the dynamic between them was addictive. I know Neverwhere started its life as a BBC radio play, and I feel like from an actor's standpoint, Croup and Vandemar would be dream roles to land. I'm compelled to mark all the passages where Croup and Vandemar appear and go back just to read them all. It can be my personal Neverwhere novella. I like it. And last, I was particularly drawn in by the omniscient narration taking place here. I find so many novels these days are either a first-person narrative or a limited omniscient narrative where you enter one character's thoughts, feelings, perspectives, and you don't really find out about other characters. In Neverwhere, Gaiman bounces you from Richard and Dor to Old Bailey, and from Croup and Vandemar to the Marquis. There are even times when the reader knows more than half the characters in the book. I love dramatic irony more than I can explain, and Gaiman handles the surprises very nicely. So yes, for anyone new to Gaiman, Neverwhere is a good starting point. And yes, the ocean at the end of the lane should not have been my first experience. I have confirmed this now. For his alternate take on London and his adventurous trip through London's underground world, I gave Neil Gaiman 4 to 5 stars for Neverwhere. Now I am off to experience my own relocation from my room proper. I wonder if that means I'll meet human versions of Bathurst, Bloor, and Union Station in the coming days. On that note, signing off.